Hey y'all, Jamie here. Proud 55-year-old trans woman from New Orleans. So, where last I left off. Sadly, I was making dinner in my apartment on Esplanade Avenue, just outside the French Quarter, and a young black man was shot for his NFL starter jacket. This was a big problem back in those days, and it was something that was happening rather rampantly, that a lot of young African American men in New Orleans and around the country really were being shot for their NFL starter jackets in those days. And that's what happened to this young man. And he unfortunately expired right there on the front steps of the building. Um, it was very sad. It was very, very sad. And of course, the police came, and I had a neighbor in the front of the building whose name was Leslie DeWild. Miss Leslie DeWild. She was called the White Moth by the older trans girls in town because she was a post op girl. She had had her surgery done way back in the early 70s. And she was a character. She was a character. She had like double personality, like split personalities, where she would come over to the house and she would be wearing like a really 60s looking blonde wig, like a mod looking wig, and she would say, "This is Salitha." And she would pretend to be this whole other person named Salitha who was a prostitute from the streets. Anyway, yeah, it was kind of crazy. So after all of that kind of passed, and we're trying to carry on with life. It's a dangerous neighborhood. Look, New Orleans is a crime-ridden city, and in those days it was like one of the highest murder rate capitals in the United States. It was dangerous. So Mickey and I are still in. We haven't even been together a year. I don't even think we've been together 6 months yet. Maybe 6 months at this point. Yeah, okay, maybe 6 months at this point. And so the sex life is still high and hard and heavy. And I mean that quite literally. Um, and my sister Deanne, y'all, I've talked about my little sister Deanne a lot. She was coming over to our apartment all the time. She was living in the city. She was working on Bourbon Street too. Sometimes she danced at the French Casino where I worked, and most of the time she was down the street at Big Daddy's where I had lived upstairs from. She worked for Big Daddy's for a long time. And so I was seeing Deanne all the time. Me and Mickey were hot and heavy. And even to the point, y'all, this one particular day in that apartment that was at the back of the complex, the back of the building, we were carrying on one day, and I swear to you, that boy shoved my face in the pillow and tore me up until I fainted. Like, I went to stand up afterwards and just fainted dead out in the middle of the floor. And he was oh so proud of himself. Like, he was so proud of himself, and he really was just like, his little chest was not little chest, but his chest was just all kinds of puffed up like a little pit bull. Yeah, he was quite proud of himself for that one. And it was actually kind of embarrassing. What am I supposed to say? Was what it was. So, me and Mickey's first Mardi Gras rolls around, okay? And it's the first Mardi Gras that me and him are together, and I'm working at French Casino, and me and Valerie are teaming up a lot. There's several other girls that work there though. And like Heather and Sabrina, Cuban Sabrina worked there too. And Valerie and just a number of girls, probably about a dozen of us all together, okay? And so there was another older trans lady that worked there. Well, I say older, she was like 45 at the time, probably, maybe around 45, I would say. And her name was Jean. Jean was, she was a tall, statuesque black lady that was just beautiful. To me, I thought Jean was just beautiful. And so it's Mardi Gras, y'all. And listen, we're having to work doubles. Okay, Joe Nucio, that owned the French Casino, was making us work double shifts. And this truck driver that I knew came in to see me at the bar. And he knew I was working doubles. So he said, "Jamie, here, this will help you out." He gave me a little Ziploc sandwich baggie full of Black Mollies, Speed. For you kids today that don't know what the hell Black Mollies are, it was Speed back in the old days. And So, yeah, I got all kinds of hopped up on my Black Mollies, and I was feeling no pain. I was high, and I'm sitting at the bar by the front door, okay? And a party of people comes in, and it's 2 young black guys and 4 black girls that are with them, and, they come in, and they wanna see Jean dance, you know? And so I'm thinking, "Okay, no big deal." It's like, I really wasn't even paying it any attention. So then Jean goes up on stage, and as soon as they see her up on stage and they can tell that she's an older woman, they start, "Ooh, take it off, mama, take it off," and catcalling, and one of the girls gets up on her knees, and leaning over the bar on her elbows and going, "Yeah, take it off, bitch, take it off." Just being tacky. So Jean takes her dress off, thinking that they're being complimentary. And then they started screaming, "Put it back on, put it back on." Y'all, I saw red. All I saw was red as what I'm wearing. And I took a full, large, like 32-ounce to go cup that I'd gotten from outside, and it was full, crushed ice and soda and everything. I stormed down to the end of the bar. I grabbed the girl that was on her knees on the bar stool, and I spun her around, and I threw the entire drink in her face and grabbed her by her hair and yanked her off the bar stool onto the floor. Woo! And if y'all want to know what happened next, y'all know the routine. Be here tomorrow, and I will too. I love you all. I love you all for watching, and I love you for the comments. Talk to you later. Bye bye.